Greetings, Mavericks and new viewers. Tonight, direct and live from the Maverick News Network World Studios. This is Maverick News with Rick Walker.
Welcome back, Maverick family and new viewers. This is the Maverick News Channel, and we have a lot of news for you tonight. James Bauder, freedom trucker seeking asylum in the United States, now has officially an arrest warrant issued on the Canadian side. We'll see where that goes, and we'll dig into it. We may even go to the phones and let you guys weigh in on the conversation tonight. We'll have an update on that tragic Minnesota shooting, 2 children killed. We also have this very dramatic situation with SpaceX where they brought another rocket back to Earth, and we have video from that. In addition to that, we also have all kinds of other controversies. Calgary bomb squad disposing of explosives and even restricting flights over the area at as they were doing so today. I'm just looking down at my notes. I apologize for not looking right into the camera. I just want to make sure we touch on the top stories to let you know where we're going tonight. And in addition to that, also concerning comments from the government regarding the Trans Mountain Pipeline, and Doug Ford in Ontario addressing in a very controversial way the traffic jam issue, the ongoing traffic issues in Toronto, by issuing the first construction contracts today or announcing the first construction contracts for Highway 413. And it's the way the government is going about getting this done that has some people pretty darn upset, and other people hoping that maybe they'll be able to get around the GTA a little more efficiently in the years ahead. Stay with me. We have all that and more to unpack when we come back on the other side of this.
Greetings, brave Mavericks. Our quest for truth continues. We go beyond fake news. Together we expose propaganda. Together we pull others out of rabbit holes. We are maverick thinkers. We are all unique individuals, defenders of individual rights and freedoms, credible, trusted, grounded in reality. Maverick News, Maverick News. Defending free speech, free speech. Donate at freedomreporters.com. Do it now. Tomorrow may be too late. Maverick News. The world is watching.
Okay, our lead story right off the top, this tragedy out of Minneapolis, where tonight we know that we have 2 children aged 8 and 10 who have been killed after a shooter opened fire during a morning mass at Annunciation Catholic School on the south side of Minneapolis. 17 other people, including 14 children, have been injured. The shooter has been identified as Robin Westman, 23 years old. Here's a photo that is circulating online. Westman died of a self-inflicted gunshot wound, according to authorities. FBI Director Kash Patel has identified the shooter as a male. However, legal documents requesting a name change for Westman say that Westman identified as a female. And that, of course, is sparking how shall I describe it? A furor online. And of course, it's fueling controversy and debates on a range of issues related to all of that. Here's the news conference now, from just a short time ago, from the scene.
There was a rifle, a shotgun, and a pistol. All three had been lawfully purchased by the shooter. At this stage, we believe that the shooter had acted alone. There is no indication of other suspects directly involved in carrying out this attack. Our investigators are working with other agencies in the process of executing 4 search warrants. One is for the church itself, where this crime occurred. The other 3 are residences nearby in the metro that are related to this shooter. Additional firearms are being recovered from those 3 residential locations as we speak. We're also aware of a manifesto that the shooter had timed to be released on YouTube. This manifesto appeared to show him at the scene and included some disturbing writings. That content has since been taken down with the assistance of the FBI, and it now remains under active review by our investigators. We know this community is reeling and is in pain. I want to ensure everyone in our community, this parish, all of the families affected, and all of our residents, that all of law enforcement collectively, local law enforcement, our county, our state, and all of our federal law enforcement partners have been here, and we are all working tirelessly to uncover the full scope of what happened, to try and identify a motive why it happened, and whether there are any other further details.
Okay, so we have. Here we go.
Of different ways.
This is the mayor.
People
of,
with strength,
Minneapolis,
resilience, compassion, and love for the families that have been forever impacted by this heinous act. We want to make sure that we're doing everything possible for them right now, and I want to give a special thank you, and we are so grateful to all of the faculty and the teachers at Annunciation. The way that they acted during severe threat and danger was nothing short of heroic. This is a tragic and horrible event that should never occur, and it would have been all the more tragic and horrible had they not stepped in, at times perhaps put themselves in danger to protect others. As horrible as this has been, it could have been far worse. I'm grateful for our law enforcement partners, our police officers in the Minneapolis Police Department and other law enforcement agencies well beyond that step up, that answered the call to make sure that they were running towards danger when so many of the rest of us would have run in the other direction. Thank you. We are so appreciative of your service. To Principal DeBoer and your whole team, the ethic that you have showed, the love that you've shown, it's flat out incredible. And at the same time, look, we need to be doing more than talking. It can't just be words. There needs to be action. And when we have seen school shooting after school shooting, when we have seen churches get shot up by horrible actors, I think the impetus has to be on all of us as leaders to do a whole lot more, to recognize that we've got more guns in this country than we have people. And it's on all of us to recognize the truth and the reality that we can't just say that this shouldn't happen again and then allow it to happen again and again beyond that. It's on all of us. And I have heard about a whole lot of hate that's being directed at our trans community. Anybody who is using this as an opportunity to villainize our trans community or any other community out there has lost their sense of common humanity. We should not be operating out of a place of hate for anyone. We should be operating from a place of love for our kids. Kids died today. This needs to be about them. This needs to be wrapping our arms around these families with every bit of love that we can possibly show. And I know that our Minneapolis family and well beyond is prepared to do exactly that. And so my message to everyone out there is, again, these families are experiencing some acute pain right now. But don't just think of these as somebody else's kids. Think of your own. Let's make sure that we're acting now to not just say it's never happening again, but ensure it doesn't.
A community behind us, Annunciation Church and School, committed to academics, service, and Catholic values, filled with the first days of school of beautiful children going to learn those values, share with their teachers and their classmates. And instead of that joy and that curiosity and that learning, they were met with evil and horror and death. And we often come to these and say, these unspeakable tragedies, or there's no words for this. There shouldn't be words for these types of incidents because they should not happen. And there's no words that are going to ease the pain of the families today. On behalf of all the people of Minnesota, our deepest sympathies. A wish that any of these words would make what you're feeling now better, but it won't. A place that's founded on community, founded on service, founded on family. I'd like to give special thank you to the mayor and the team in Minneapolis, the Minneapolis Police Department, Hennepin County Sheriff's Office, Minnesota State Patrol, the BCA, so many agencies, our federal partners in the FBI, the first responders, and the heroic work that's happening now as we speak at multiple medical locations, including Hennepin County Medical Center, where most of our children were transported to receive the life-saving care. The thoughts and prayers and the hopes and the support that we need to give them in this moment, too, is critical. Speaking with all the people here and grateful to our federal partners, Senator Klobuchar speaking early this morning and receiving a call from President Trump, who was with his leadership team of the Attorney General and the Vice President, expressing their deep condolences amongst the horror that happened and an offer to provide the support to the folks here in Minnesota of what's needed. So there's a lot of cameras here, and unfortunately we've been through these types of things. They will be gone at some point. All of you have to do your jobs. But what happened here today will not be gone. Minnesotans will not step away. We'll stand with this community. We'll redouble ourselves to do the best we can to understand what we can do to prevent any parent from having to receive the calls they received today, from any school dedicated to children having to respond to a situation that, as we said, is unthinkable, but that's all too common, not just in Minnesota, but across this country. It's Minnesota's day today, and it's my strongest desire that no state, no community, no school ever experiences a day like this. So I ask the rest of the folks around the country who are watching, keep us in your thoughts and prayers, but also keep us in the thoughts for action.
I will be back.
You know, someone very profoundly once said many years ago that if fascism ever comes to America, it'll come in the name of liberalism.
Well, I think it's time we ask ourselves if we still know the freedoms that were intended for us by the Founding Fathers. If we lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on Earth.
The entire world is watching.
Every dictator, every crazy dictator in the world is watching. The world is watching. On TV, the entire world is watching. On social media.
But the entire world is watching, and yes, they are seeing what we have apparently bravely been willing to say that others are thinking.
Stand for freedom. Literally stand for freedom. Let's get this done. The entire world is watching.
We're at war with the most dangerous enemy that has ever faced mankind in his long climb from the swamp to the stars.
Maverick News. Maverick News. Maverick News.
Let me have more control of my own destiny.
The world is watching.
In Canada, Calgary, Alberta, an explosion was heard, and it was set off intentionally in Calgary in the Manchester Industrial Park this afternoon as the Calgary Bomb Squad was called in to deal with a suspicious package. It was found outside a business in the 4700 block of 1st Street Southwest. And we have video of the detonation, actually. They closed off airspace in the area as well. Let me see here. Where did my video go? Down here. Okay, I've got it. So I have the video. So, of course, this is a package, and then the bomb squad called in. They closed off the airspace in Calgary. This is an incident that was reported many hours ago. They detonated this device or whatever it was around midday. Not clear if they're entirely finished with everything there, but here's what it looked like. This was just around, late morning, early, around noon today, Calgary time, I believe. So I'm just going to check the latest info on this. So, yeah, they were called it actually around noon yesterday after the package was discovered. They said the package contained explosive material. It was likely delivered to the wrong address, but it was too unstable to move safely. So it doesn't look like this was any kind of a sinister act. It was some sort of a misdirection, maybe a mistake. We don't have all of the details regarding this, but I expect the authorities will give us more information. There was a briefing at Calgary's Emergency Operations Center, and the Deputy Police Chief, Cliff O'Brien, says that there would be more explosions as emergency crews conducted a series of controlled explosions to destroy the material. We got that one on video, as you can see. And Transport Canada says due to the intense bright yellow color, picric acid was one of the chemicals involved in this. It's commonly used in chemistry labs to make dyes and explosives, but also describes this chemical as highly shock, heat, and friction sensitive. And so it makes it very explosive. And that's why they decided, I guess, to detonate this thing on site. And as you can see here, the authorities put this up online to warn people. Do I have it here? Yes, I think so. Oh, there it is. I'll show you what they posted. Right there. So they posted that online, ongoing hazardous materials incident, and then they had this evacuation zone highlighted on this map that they posted online, showing how they took a lot of people out of the area there to keep things safe while they detonated the package. So some excitement there in Calgary, and it's been ongoing now for a little over 24 hours, but I think they have things more or less under control now. And we're just highlighting basically what happened there. Down in Florida, as we head south again, tonight, an official there has indicated that that state-run immigration detention facility, as everyone has come to know it as Alligator Alcatraz, it could be empty within days, despite ongoing legal battles between the state federal government and a judge's order to close the facility by late October. So there has been an email exchange that was obtained by Associated Press, and this dates back all the way to August 22nd, this email that is now being made public. And it's an email to South Florida Rabbi Mario Roseman regarding chaplaincy services. Kevin Guthrie, executive director of the Florida Division of Emergency Management. And he wrote the facility was, quote, probably going to be down to 0 individuals within a few days. So this email's authenticity was confirmed by Roseman and the executive assistant who initiated the correspondence. And the facility, Alligator Alcatraz, was constructed 2 months ago. It was set up to hold about 3,000 detainees as part of a federal initiative, as you know, to deport individuals in the U.S. who are alleged to be there illegally and once housed at one point about 1,000 people, detainees. And there was recently a tour involving some politicians that showed only about 300 to 350 detainees remained in the facility. 3 lawsuits have challenged the operations of Alligator Alcatraz, with one estimating that at least 100 detainees have been deported, while others were transferred to different detention centers. So last week, a federal judge in Miami ordered the facility to cease operations within 60 days, prompting an appeal from Florida and a request from the federal government to stay the order, citing overcrowding at other state detention centers, environmental groups, and there's a tribe down there, the Mikosuki. I apologize, I can't pronounce it. Mikosuki tribe, whose lawsuit prompted the ruling, opposed the stay, arguing the facility's necessity was overstated, especially as Florida plans a second detention center in North Florida dubbed Deportation Depot. It's all very performative, isn't it? Elise Potler Bennett, a senior attorney for the Center for Biological Diversity, one of the suing groups, said the rapid drawdown of detainees undermines claims that closing the facility would hinder immigration enforcement. Now, as of today, U.S. District Judge Kathleen Williams still has not ruled on the stay request. The judge's order requires the facility's population to be reduced through transfers, followed by the removal of fencing, lighting, and generators. Easy come, easy go, I guess, when it comes to Everglade detention centers. The lawsuit by environmental groups and the tribe argued that the facility's construction and operations violated federal environmental laws, threatening protected wetlands and undermining decades of restoration efforts. So Florida state officials have signed contracts worth over $245 million to build and operate the facility at a remote training airport in the Everglades, which we've shown you in previous broadcasts of Maverick News. It opened July 1st. Civil rights attorneys have reported severe issues at the site, including detainees held without charges, lack of custody or bond determinations, and unsanitary conditions such as worms in food, non-functioning toilets, flooding with fecal waste. And I have seen images from inside the facility showing flooding, and pervasive insects. How serious those things are? Well, I guess we need evidence. I when it comes to anything political, and this is politically charged, to be sure, I'm always skeptical of everything on all sides, but I did see definite evidence of flooding inside the buildings that they had moved on site. And it looked like a lot of those were portable buildings, the types of which you would sort of see in construction sites. So I don't know. And then there were, obviously cells and cages and things of that nature set up there too. But from July 1st now to the end of August, they've gone from media frenzy surrounding all of this to almost, within days, maybe having no detainees at all inside Alligator Alcatraz. We'll keep you posted as that story continues to unfold. Now, back to Canada and Ontario land, where the Premier of Ontario, Doug Ford, today announced the first construction contracts have been awarded to begin constructing Highway 413. It's a proposed highway and transit corridor running through York, Peel, and Halton regions. If you have driven in Toronto, especially after about 3 p.m. on any given day, you have to know that the traffic up there is just awful. I have driven in Los Angeles, which is said to be one of the most congested, worst places on the planet to drive, and I would rather drive in Los Angeles than drive in Toronto during rush hour. It is awful up there. I don't know, honestly, how people live day to day if they are commuting to work during the peak times. And peak time in Toronto, in my experience driving up through there, is sort of anything past about 3 p.m. right through until about 7, 8 o'clock at night. It's just jammed. And the same thing in the morning. If you start your commute to work too late in the morning, you're going to get jammed in there. I've been to Toronto, for various things in the past, and you can leave your comments in the chat regarding Toronto, but I don't know what you guys think about it. But sometimes if I've been up there for something and it gets past 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon, I'll go have dinner someplace, hang out until about 8 or 9, and then go get on the road. Otherwise, you just stuck in traffic. You might as well just be sitting someplace and just wait. It's just so frustrating. So this highway will have 11 interchanges at municipal roads. It'll have features such as service centers, carpool lots, truck inspection stations, and the potential for electric vehicle charging stations. And all of that has been explored as part of the preliminary design. Where the issues arise here, it's because of the way the Premier, the provincial government, is going about this. There has been so far, in the view of many, little, if any, consultation with First Nations affected by this as stakeholders, and the Premier is jamming this through. Here he is today.
We're also expanding GO service across the Greater Golden Horseshoe, including 30-minute weekday service between Bramalea and Union Station. And of course, we're investing $30 billion through our plan to build and upgrade highways and roads so we can get drivers out of traffic. Gridlock is costing drivers and their families far too many wasted hours, and is costing our province, ready for this one, $56 billion every single year. And if we don't act, that number could reach nearly $145 billion a year by 2044. That's why we're building the Bradford Bypass, widening Highway 401, and building the 401 Tunnel Expressway. And that's why our government promised drivers here in Peel and across the Greater Golden Horseshoe that we will build Highway 413. And today, we're getting it done. I'm thrilled to announce that our government has awarded the first 2 construction contracts for Highway 413. Here in Caledon, crews are starting work upgrading Highway 10 in preparation for a new bridge that will take drivers over the future Highway 413. And And folks, we couldn't do this without our great stakeholders here and the hardworking women and men on the front lines building these highways. And down the road in Melton, crews will soon preparing the interchange at Highway 401 and 407 to connect Highway 413. This crucial highway will run from Halton in the west to Highway 400 in the east. It will keep drivers moving and keep our economy going. No matter what President Trump sends our way, construction alone will keep 6,000 workers on the job and will add $1 billion to Ontario's GDP every single year. It will shorten travel times by up to 30 minutes per trip, helping people and goods get where they need to go faster. Highway 413 will protect our workers and will help us stand up to President Trump. It will deliver on our plan to build a stronger, more prosperous Ontario for decades to come. We're going to keep investing in our workers, our infrastructure, and our communities. We're going to cut red tape, tackle gridlock, and attract new jobs and investment to our province. And we're going to build Highway 413, no matter who the next president is. Or whatever the next crisis, we're going to protect our workers, our communities, our jobs and our people, our public services. And thank you. I want to thank everyone for coming, and may God bless the people of Ontario. Thank you.
Okay. That was Doug Ford. So, predictably, there is criticism being leveled at this, and it's coming from the Green Party, which is upset because they say that we shouldn't be building more highways, and comments that I've seen on mainstream media websites, they're saying that it's just going to lead to more urban sprawl. That's the criticism. Anyway. But you got to do something up there because people can't get around. The trucks can't get around. And it's a mess. They have not really dealt with the infrastructure issues up there adequately for, decades. Inadequate planning for the future. So today also, court hearing held in Ottawa that involved James Bauder, that freedom trucker that we all know and some of you love. And he was on our program talking about his asylum request, or I don't know if it's a request, but yeah, he's seeking asylum in the United States, political asylum. He's facing multiple criminal charges, including mischief, obstruction, and counseling others to commit indictable offenses for his role in the Freedom Convoy, which we kind of got into to some degree with James on several occasions during appearances on this program. Now, he was supposed to appear in court today to answer to these charges. Actually, it was yesterday, and he didn't show up. So today there was a court hearing. He was represented in court by a very well-known, famous lawyer in Canada, Lawrence Greenspan, who has been involved in many, many, many very high-profile cases, especially cases involving constitutional issues. And he is also the lawyer for Convoy participant Tamara Litch, and the funding for his fees is coming, I believe, from the Democracy Fund, and at least one media outlet that is generating an online fundraiser for him and to cover the legal fees for James Bauder on maybe this side, maybe both sides, not really clear. In any event, Greenspan explained in court today that his client could not attend the hearing in person. He said, quote, he can't be present because it would jeopardize his pending asylum application in the United States, he told the court. And so he requested an adjournment of the trial to await the outcome of Bauder's asylum claim, but the judge today declined and issued a warrant for Bauder's arrest. Addressing the possibility of extradition to Canada before Bauder's November trial, Greenspan expressed doubt that the U.S. would act on such a request. He said today, quote, again, while an asylum application is pending, I can't imagine the U.S. would honor an extradition request from Canada if one is even made. And he added that he does not expect Bauder to return to Canada for the trial. So Greenspan also shared a broader message about free expression. He says, if you express yourself peacefully and assemble peacefully, that should take precedence over any infringement on property rights. So that's the position from Bauder's lawyer. Also, just a point of reference, and maybe we'll bring it up here. Well, maybe I'll just save it for later in the broadcast, because I think we're going to take some phone calls with regard to this later. But he is also alleging that he was tortured in Canada. So I don't recall James Bauder mentioning torture when he was testifying at the Public Order Emergency Commission hearings into the use of the Emergencies Act. I don't remember that word in any of his testimony. I could be wrong. If anyone else recalls him alleging that he was tortured when taken into custody, please let me know. Also, in addition to that, I don't know. Very interesting case, though, raises many issues. It could set legal precedent if he is granted political asylum on the U.S. side, and that could destroy Canada's status as a safe country, especially for immigrants, and it might even make some question Canada's alliance with the United States, and some might even suggest that Canada then becomes some sort of a threat or a security risk for the U.S. if we're treating people like that. This is, I think, where the whole thing is supposed to go. I just don't know. Now, over in D.C., we'll come back to that story later in the broadcast in just a little while, but down in D.C., mixed message today from the mayor of Washington, D.C., Muriel Bowser, who on one hand says that Trump's surge of federal law enforcement has lowered crime in D.C., but on the other hand, she's saying that it's not working because with all of the National Guard troops who are armed, having essentially a military organization on the streets of DC, a lot of people are feeling very unsafe. It hasn't increased the feeling of safety within the community. It's making people feel more unsafe because the atmosphere is obviously very charged down there. She conveyed her ambivalent view of the Trump administration's federalization of DC during a news conference, or a situational update, as some are calling it, today. And as I said, on the one hand, she says the changes have resulted in less crime, at least in the short term, but she has also expressed deep concern about residents living in fear. So let's bring this up. We have a clip from the mayor of Washington, D.C. today. And I've also heard conflicting reports about how this is impacting tourism and even the way people are going about their daily activities in Washington, D.C., with Trump saying that people are going out to restaurants again and enjoying the community, and businesses are benefiting as a result. But I've also heard reports exactly the opposite, that because you have all these troops on the streets carrying weapons, a lot of other people are very worried about it, and restaurant business has actually declined. I don't know what the truth is. I'm just telling you what the two sides have said.
I will issue a mayor's order that spells out how our Emergency Operations Center will continue to engage with the federal Clean and Safe and Beautiful Task Force and ensure that task force resources continue to be strategically deployed in the district. This is what we think in just a couple of weeks of experience has worked. having more federal law enforcement officers on the street. We think having more stops that got to illegal guns has helped. We think that there's more accountability in the system, or at least perceived accountability in the system, that is driving down illegal behavior. We know that we have had fewer gun crimes, fewer homicides, and we have experienced an extreme reduction in carjackings. What we know is not working is a break in trust between police and community, especially with new federal partners in our community. We know having masked ICE agents in the community has not worked, and National Guards from other states has not been an efficient use of those resources. What's still needed is, in the city, we're going to continue to need more police. We continue to need more prosecutors, more judges, more effective prevention programs, and we need to ensure local control.
Hang on, let me get rid of this. There we go. All right, let me take a little break. We're going to come back. More news after this.
Greetings, brave Mavericks. Our quest for truth continues. We go beyond fake news. Together we expose propaganda. Together we pull others out of rabbit holes. We are maverick thinkers. We are all unique individuals, defenders of individual rights and freedoms, credible, trusted, grounded in reality. Maverick News, Maverick News. Defending free speech, free speech. Donate at freedomreporters.com. Do it now. Tomorrow may be too late. Maverick News. The world is watching.
Okay, the Privacy Commissioner saying that Canadians have a right to get certain information about them, this is in Canada, delisted from search engine results. In a release that was published today, the Office of the Privacy Commissioner, Philippe Dufresne, found that public listings about individuals that could pose a risk of harm to a person's safety or dignity can be taken down, and it's all based on weighing whether that risk outweighs the information's public interest value. This all stems from a complaint back in 2017 against Google. It was filed by a man who had once faced a criminal charge that was dropped shortly after it was first made, and then in the years to follow, news coverage of the original charge remained available online and search results associated with his name, and it, in his view, was bringing him direct harm, such as even possible physical assault. He lost employment opportunities and was apparently assaulted at one point and faced severe social stigma. As a result of all of that, it prompted this review, and now years later, we're getting this from the Privacy Commissioner's office. So in this case, that sparked the ruling, the release today noted that the relevant details included that the information concerned a minor who was not a public figure on a matter unrelated to public debate, and that significant time had passed since the original news coverage, and that the information included was no longer accurate or up to date. Thus, it was determined that it was justified to have that information scrubbed from the internet. Now, tonight also, just as a point back to our lead story, there are videos, so there is a video anyway, circulating online that had the authorities had tried to take it down, from my understanding, of the suspect or the gunman in Minnesota, And I did find that video. I did not run it here tonight for ethical reasons. So it is online for anybody that wants to go looking for it. And I know that some people probably will be very curious about it, but I didn't post it. I don't know that it really adds much to the story because I want to always be careful about not sensationalizing or what would be the right word? Featuring, focusing too much attention on the perpetrator of the crime, because often that is exactly why they do it, why these acts are carried out, because they are looking for attention. So by sharing that kind of information at times, you can actually make things worse in the long run. So that's why I've chosen tonight not to show you that video, although I am always inclined to lean toward full disclosure, full exposure of information. But we'll see how much more exposure, distribution of that information might happen online, and I will weigh future coverage of this story in the days ahead based on what transpires day to day. That was my decision tonight with regard to that. So also this evening, what else do I have on my list here? The Trans Mountain Pipeline issue. Let me see. I got to get my notes up here. Because this was all about talk in the recent days about optimizing the Trans Mountain Pipeline. Yeah, here we go. So this was involving the energy minister, and he is saying that the Trans Mountains ask to have the pipeline, the Trans Mountain Pipeline, prioritized and optimized. The optimization prioritized the capacity of the government-owned pipeline before greenlighting new major projects. It is, in his view, not a project of national interest. So the prime minister has promised to turn Canada into a world-leading energy superpower, and the Liberals passed the Building Canada Act back in June. You may remember he did that with the stroke of a Sharpie in a very presidential style news conference ceremony, media display. I remember all of that. And this gives the government sweeping new powers to approve major projects of national interest. And then he actually, well, I shouldn't say it was just the stroke of a pen. This thing was actually passed in Parliament, and the Conservatives did ultimately come forward and supported it enough to get it passed by this minority government. The Trans Mountain Pipeline, it ships oil from Alberta to BC, to the BC coast. And in 2018, the federal government purchased the pipeline, controversial because of the costs involved, and funded a major expansion, and that nearly tripled the pipeline's capacity. So the expanded pipeline, which started shipping oil back in May of 2024, can now handle up to 890,000 barrels per day. But that capacity could be increased to nearly 1.2 million barrels per day through optimization. That recently came out just a couple of days ago from a comment from Trans Mountain CEO Mark Mackey. He says that it's his personal belief that if you look at the optimization of your existing pipelines, it's the first thing you do. And he went on earlier this week to say, because it's the easiest thing to do. And it's much easier to build another TMX somewhere, he added. And for that reason, optimize the kit you have, he says, which you can do in steps over time. But while optimization could further increase the potential capacity of Trans Mountain, the pipeline is currently operating at about 85% of its maximum capacity. And the Premier of BC, David Eby, has been commenting and making political points, scoring political points, I think, by seizing on the gap, and says that Canada should prioritize maximizing the use of the Trans Mountain Pipeline before pursuing new oil pipeline projects through his province. But of course, then we've seen, some people saying one man can't stop a pipeline, and that would be Eby. And I know the people in Alberta pushing to have more pipelines built. Alberta Premier Danielle Smith advocating for a pipeline from her province to BC's northern tidewaters. So the controversy goes on. And I don't think that the comments made today with regard to all that really help matters much. Just going to fuel, if you will, the friction even more. Okay, so did you know Melania is fueling controversy too? Yesterday, I don't really like celebrity news too much, but yesterday it was yesterday, right? That Taylor Swift showed off her engagement ring, and all the Swifties went crazy online because her and her football beau announced they're getting hitched. Well, another celebrity news, I guess there's all kinds of controversy surrounding Melania Trump tonight because Vanity Fair's staff is in a meltdown mode, with some editors threatening to quit if the magazine puts Melania Trump on the cover. About half the editorial team, I guess, is threatened to walk out. Quit if they put Melania Trump on the cover of Vanity Fair. Here's a clip from pro-Trump. Are they pro-Trump? Sometimes they're mostly pro-Trump. I'd say Fox is like 80 to 90% pro-Trump. In any event, here's a clip.
Its new boss is potentially interested in featuring Melania as liberal outlets shift to woo the administration. Melania was excluded from the nation's fashion magazines, including Vogue and Vanity Fair, during her first time in the White House, despite previous First Lady features. Michelle Obama was on 12 magazine covers during her 8 years as the First Lady, including 3 times on the cover of Vogue. But now this potential move has employees of the famed fashion magazine losing their minds, with some threatening to quit if the First Lady is granted a spot on the cover.
I mean, you got to see what this says.
Culture wars.
Half my staff. This, according to who is a mid-level editor, we're not going to normalize that despot and his wife. So that's the attitude of the people you hire. I would say, listen, if you're going to walk out because you don't like my cover, you don't understand who the boss is, you should leave.
She's the Vogue before she became First Lady.
And fashion she's at the top of the fashion industry and has been for decades. But I love that this editor says that, and she speaks with her clothes in a way that, like, I don't get clothes, but she speaks and, like, I look at her clothes and I'm like, oh wow, that's a statement.
And she speaks how many languages? She's
5
smart.
languages, right? But I love that this editor says, if I have to work bagging groceries at Trader Joe's, I'll do it. I would far rather work at Trader Joe's. Trader Joe's is a great place to work, I think.
It's fun to shop.
They're always very friendly.
But I would add.
I speak with my clothes too. It's like I probably slept in them. and I speak multiple languages all at the same time. I've had some people phoning me just in the past few days from the US. And one lady that I spoke to, just trying to sell me stuff, but I had a very pleasant conversation with her, and we were talking about Canada, the 51st state stuff, and language issues, and I said, I speak Franglish because I was taught French in elementary school, never really picked it up, didn't make any sense to me. I studied Spanish in college. I was almost able to speak Spanish sort of semi-fluently. I can't anymore. I've lost it because I just don't use it. And then I said, plus, my English is Canadian English, because Canadian English is different than US English, different spellings and so on. And so, but I just mix them all up, and I speak all of these US, because when I went to school, they would accept US spelling or Canadian spelling, because we're so Americanized in that respect here in Southern Ontario. So I said, I just mix up all these languages at once, and I'm just a mess. So I just speak Franglish. And it's just too true. I do want to highlight this. Oh, you know what? I should also mention this before we go to the phones. Treasury Secretary Scott Bassett is calling for the prosecution of Fed Governor Lisa Cook. Trump wanted to fire Jerome Powell. He wants that guy gone, doesn't like him. And Powell was involved in that sort of tour of those new buildings being constructed by the Fed. And it was sort of a setup. They were trying to burn Powell, but when Trump tried to nail Powell during the photo op with a sabotage comment about the cost overruns, Powell said, "Let me see that document." And he looks at it, and then he embarrassed Trump, because he was like, "No, this you're saying we're a cost overrun here. You're talking about a building that was already built. That's not even included in the accounting." And he hands it back to him. And so he couldn't fire Powell at the time. But what he seems to be doing is he's trying to purge the Fed, like all other government institutions, of any political opponents, and put people who are just loyal to him in place. And so he's going after now the Treasury Secretary, the governor of the Fed. And Treasury Secretary Scott Bassett has weighed in on that as well. Let me just show you. I've got a clip of Bassett talking about this, but I think this is making a lot of people very uneasy, because the president is supposed to be arm's length from the Fed. The government politicians not supposed to be having influence over the Fed, because they can cook things too much, rig things too much in favor of themselves and their friends economically. They can rig the economy if you let them get involved too deeply.
Is putting undue pressure on the Fed, and there are people like President Trump and myself who think that if a Fed official committed mortgage fraud, that this should be examined, and that they shouldn't be serving as one of the nation's leading financial regulators. And what we haven't heard from Ms. Cook is, we haven't heard her say, "I didn't do it." We haven't heard her say, "I didn't do it." She just keeps saying the president can't remove her. The other thing, too, that I have called in the recent past for an internal review of all the Fed's operations, and I've encouraged Chair Powell to do this on an internal basis before there is an external review. And this is the kind of thing that needs to be addressed, because the Fed is an unaccountable institution, and its relationship with the American people depends on a high level of trust. And incidents like this puncture that trust. So President Trump is trying to make sure that anyone who serves at this institution has the trust of the American people.
And so, yeah, so Trump said he fired her. But he doesn't have the authority to fire her, because the president isn't supposed to be able to fire these people at the Fed, because it is accountable, just not to the politicians directly, because you don't want your politicians. It's like putting your politicians in charge of your courts, in which case it becomes politicized, and it just becomes a feeding ground for people who want to belly up to the trough in in acts of political corruption and feast on the tax dollars and rig the system so that they can enrich themselves. You don't want your politicians hiring and firing people at the Fed. It needs to be independent and held accountable in other ways, which it is. So Lisa Cook, accused of mortgage fraud, because as I understand the law down there, if in her case, you have to disclose your financial interests, and if you have a second residence, you're not allowed to file that or declare that to be your primary residence. And there's something to do with the taxation and the way that you do your accounting with regard to all of that. But whether they actually have the goods on this and the evidence to back this up remains to be seen. I'm hearing some reports saying that they really don't. There isn't any evidence that she has actually committed mortgage fraud, which is the allegation that Trump is using to justify her dismissal. And this is going to wind its way through the courts because she's refusing to step down. She's saying, you can't fire me. You're not my boss. So she's, I think, still reporting to work. This is going to be an ongoing legal challenge, and the administration is trying to cook things up down there. So this is going to be a knockdown, drag them out legal battle for sure. One to watch, because it will also potentially set a legal precedent moving forward. Now, let me see if I can find this stuff with the SpaceX rocket today, because that's one heck of a story too. All this stuff with SpaceX, like, they're doing incredible things. I guess they're getting ready to send astronauts back to the moon after all these years, which I don't know. Would that put to bed the naysayers who claim that we didn't go to the moon because of the Van Allen radiation belts? I don't know. Let's see if I can find you the video here. Do I have the clip? I did earlier. We've lost it. So let me just see here. I want to show you that I had it on here, but we've lost the tab. I will find it though. Very, very cool stuff. And I know our friend Dragon has been talking quite a bit about technocracy. And here's the video. Here's the video today of this rocket during re-entry. And this is what they've done here is they've worked out some of the bugs with the, what do they call it? Their Starship rocket, which they're going to use eventually, I guess, for interplanetary travel, maybe to get to Mars. So this giant 403-foot tall Starship system, it was in its 10th test flight, lifted off around 7:30 p.m. And that came from South Texas. And then it was followed by heavy booster releasing. I'm just reading some notes. And it was in space about 30 minutes into the flight. And then it released these dummy satellites, Starlink type satellites. I guess they didn't put the real deal up there because they weren't sure how the test was going to go. And it hit supersonic speeds, of course. And then it came back into the atmosphere. Engine guided, vertical landing, and it came down into the ocean just west of Australia in dramatic fashion. One of the interesting new innovations that SpaceX has come up with is a reusable heat shield that appears to be more practical, more cost-effective, and reusable when compared to what was done even during the space shuttle era, where they used tiles to insulate the belly of the space shuttle that were reusable, except for the ones that fell off during re-entry, and those were ones that were damaged and would have to be carefully inspected and some replaced between each flight. And here's the re-entry as it happened today. And then it toppled over and exploded. They didn't show you that in this clip. Let me see if I can find you the longer clip where it explodes. I don't know if I've got it. I think maybe this is it. I'm sorry. I'll maybe look for it. Maybe show you later in the broadcast. I don't want to delay things here too much longer. It's really cool anyway. It's got to be here. I'm still looking when I said I wasn't going to look anymore because I just thought it was a really cool video. I'll find it. We'll share it with you later. Let's go to the phones. I'm going to queue everything up here. Get the system cranked up. And I'm going to put the number up on the screen for you in just a moment. And tonight's feature topic is the James Bauder court case. So if you'd like to weigh in on that, give us a call. I'm going to put the number up here. Here is the phone number. So you can exercise your right to free speech. Okay, Mavericks, it's call-in time. Join the conversation. Call 1-647-734-4220. Then enter the PIN number 860-075-764, followed by the pound sign. Exercise your right to free speech. Call 1-647-734-4220. Then enter the PIN number 860-075-764, followed by the pound sign. Call 1-647-734-4220. Then enter the PIN number 860-075-764, followed by the pound sign. Maverick News. Call now. The world is watching and listening to you. All right, and the phones are open, and we've got a caller on the line. Who's our first caller of the night?
It's Bridget. How are you?
Well, hello, Bridget Belton, mother of the Convoy. Welcome back to the program.
Thank you.
I'm not surprised to hear from you at all, given that you kind of know the lay of the land when it comes to these issues, and this issue in particular. What's your initial reaction to this arrest warrant being issued by the court today for James Bauder, freedom trucker?
I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised at all. And, I think James is being very foolish for doing this. I mean, he's putting himself in harm's way at this point. Nobody's doing this for him. He's doing it himself, right?
Yeah,
so
yeah.
He has to understand. You can't run from the court. You can't.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know who told him he could, but you can't do that. You need to face the consequences of your actions. And he's adding more and more and more for the court to go after him for. I mean, this is just not going to go over well. And I'm wondering, which you might know, is if he's going to put Sandy in harm's way. There is an arrest warrant for him, and she knows where he is. Is that aiding and abetting? I don't know. Right? Is he putting his wife in harm's way? I mean, if my husband did that to me, I can tell you, we agreed to a bullet to part, till death do us part. So, I mean, that's what would happen, right? But I mean, it's I wouldn't put up with that. And if Sandy's being put in harm's way because of James, Is she too silly to understand that this has gotten very, very serious? He's delayed this trial by, representing himself. He's delayed by, asking for a move. He's delayed by going for a jury. He's delayed and prolonged all of this. And now he's doing it again by running to the States and crying victim. He's a victim of himself, nobody else at this point.
Yeah, it's interesting. On his Facebook page, I noticed he has these documents that are related to his application for political asylum, and he's checked off this one box where he's saying that he was tortured in Canada, and yet, I don't recall him complaining about being tortured during the Public Order Emergency Commission into the Emergencies Act. He didn't testify or talk at all about it at that point, and now he's saying he was tortured. So that surprises me. Any thoughts?
Well, he
wasn't tortured.
Dragon, if you don't mind, I thanks for calling in. Just hang tough and let Bridget kind of finish up if you don't mind, and then we'll come over to you in a moment or two. I didn't want to lose your call, but I'd like to kind of let her carry this a little bit because, of course, she's so directly involved and has so much knowledge.
Of course.
I apologize for cutting you off, honey. He literally was not tortured. He wasn't tortured. This is being, our bank accounts being frozen. That was definitely disrespectful, and it was definitely hard to deal with, and I'm still dealing with it. I mean, I've waited 3 years to get my money from my U.S. account that was closed. I just got it back. Now they want to hold it another 10 days from an RBC bank check to an RBC bank check, and I'm fighting it. But I mean, is that torture? No, that's just people being arses, right? And I mean, is it inconvenient? Is it frustrating? Yeah, absolutely. Right? But that's not torture. If you want to talk about torture, I don't remember him even saying that he was a cross-border trucker at the time of COVID, where I was. And coming back into Canada, that was some serious, I felt like I was terrorized. If that's what he's talking about, yeah, that time existed, but that was then. He didn't talk about it during Convoy. He didn't talk about it during the POEC testimony. He's never talked about being tortured.
Yeah,
ever.
I don't ever recall him saying anything like that until he just checked that box on that application, and you can see that on his Facebook page.
Right? Yeah. He hasn't been tortured.
Yeah.
If he wants to know what torture is, I mean, just go to an ICE facility and be put in with all the gang members from the Spanish gang members and the Indian gang members. I think James is going to find out the hard way what being tortured is really about. And don't forget, while he's picked up in the U.S., right, and arrested and put into a jail cell, he's not going to be in a cushy Canadian jail cell.
Right.
He's going to be in a U.S. jail cell where I've seen guys complain that their bologna sandwiches have mold on it. I think the next thing he will do at that point is claim that he's transgender so he can go to a woman's prison and survive. It fits. It really does fit, right? I mean, I can't see him standing in a man's prison. I just can't. But it's crazy. It's crazy that he thinks he can get away with this. Is he going to be a man on the run forever?
Yeah. Well,
because has he not seen the guys are going to their ICE meetings, right? Or their asylum hearings, and ICE is picking them up right in the hearings and dragging them away.
Yeah. That's
like,
that's
does
the irony.
James think he's going to go?
Right. That's the irony here, isn't it? He's looking for political asylum, saying that he's being, persecuted in Canada, and yet he kind of fits the description of an illegal immigrant. In many
He
respects.
is an illegal immigrant.
Yeah.
Because, well, in my perspective, I will say, because when I crossed the border into the U.S., either before or after we had our conversation, but I've asked it on several occasions. If I wanted to claim political asylum in the U.S., how do I do it? And they said, when you come to the border, you must make the statement to the officer, you are claiming political asylum. I said, okay, so I just can't go into the States and not go back. They said, no, that is illegal.
Right. So
according to the people I've talked to at the booth, he's an illegal immigrant right now.
Yeah, actually, he's in the gray zone, to be quite honest. But yeah, I see where you come from.
Well, speaking of gray zone, legally, Greenspan today in court saying to the judge, well, could we not just stay the proceedings until we find out what happens down in the States? And I thought, that doesn't hold water. Of course, the judge is going to issue the arrest warrant, especially when you ask like that, because if you have a judge, any judge, who says, yeah, okay, well, we'll put our Canadian trial on hold to accommodate a legal challenge on the other side of the border in a foreign country. We'll just have to see what the outcome of that trial is in another country. And then if maybe we'll get around to dealing with our legal issues up here, our legal case up here. This is an assault on Canadian sovereignty. It's an assault on the authority of the Canadian justice system, the courts in Canada. It's like, no, let's just, the Canadian courts have to take a back seat to whatever is happening down in the States. No, I don't think so. The courts here don't care what is going on with his asylum request. They ordered him to appear in court yesterday. He didn't show up. So that's standard procedure. Issue the arrest warrant. If he's down in the States, ask for extradition. And we'll see if the U.S. authorities comply or cooperate. I don't know if they will or if they won't. What do you think, Bridget?
I honestly think they will comply because Trump is trying to get out all the illegals. The illegals are taking jobs from their citizens, and the U.S. has had enough. Mm-hmm. Anyone I've talked to, my friends in Texas, friends in Ohio, friends in Kentucky, anyone I've talked to about this case, they're like, why is he here? How is he here? How is he making money? I said, well, he's actually asking for donations while his wife buys gems in Panama. Mm-hmm. And they're like, excuse me? I said, yeah, his wife brought home 3 cases of gems from Panama. They went to Panama before he went to the U.S., and then he's just gone and jumped off the truck. Yep. And I can tell you, every American I have talked to thinks he's a coward and they don't want him in their country. That's not how things are done. And they really said it's no different than the truck driver that was just arrested. No different than him. It's no different than anyone else that enters their country incorrectly. It's no different. And they don't want them there.
It's very strange to me to see someone claiming that they are being politically persecuted, that all their rights and freedoms are being violated to such a degree that they need asylum in the United States, while at the same time traveling with a Canadian passport to another country like Panama, where I've seen pictures of him dining with his wife in a tropical paradise, and as you say, purchasing gems, then jetting on back to Canada, and then traveling out of freely leaving Canada to go down to the U.S. Right. So how can you be politically persecuted or having all your rights and freedoms violated when you're free to travel? They're letting you leave the country. You can come and go as you please. You can go on vacation. You can buy plane tickets and come home. You have all your freedom of movement. I don't get it. It doesn't wash with me.
Well, and you can endlessly ask for donations to support yourself.
Yeah.
You can work with General Vallely to try and destabilize your Canadian government. I mean, seems like he's had all the freedoms he's ever wanted.
Yes. I don't see all of those things right there. Just show to me, it just shows that he doesn't have a case for political asylum.
Right.
So,
like torture, he wasn't tortured.
Was he tortured when
like
he was
torture,
in Panama
they're talking
having dinner?
I haven't seen this man tortured ever. I mean, he was in Ottawa and they told him to move his bus. They basically said, take your RV and go.
Yeah.
And he's standing there arguing with them. Well, that there's snow there. Okay, James, get a fucking shovel and move your trucks. Right? Like that's pretty much the end of the story for you.
Yeah.
You need to shovel it out and move. And nobody ever, I've heard over and over and over again, oh yes, we were going to take parking tickets. No one ever said we agreed to even so much as a parking ticket. Because when I asked him repeatedly about parking in Ottawa, don't worry about it. I kept saying we don't have enough parking. Don't worry about it. We've got parking. I'm like, holy cow. Well, we were supposed to go to the underground parking, he says, but the police blocked it off. Okay, now that I can understand. But there was another parking spot we could have got everybody into. I paid for parking. Why didn't anybody else pay for parking? Because they were willing to take a parking ticket for freedom? Does that not sound stupid?
A lot of things are beginning to look pretty stupid in hindsight as we're getting clearer perspective, I think, on this. Bridget, Dragon, you've been waiting quite a while. What are your thoughts? Go ahead.
Well, she just raised a good point. Whether it's stupid to have a ticket for parking, it sounds like, the baby step of what some people does nowadays, just going willy-nilly into places where the government tell you not to go or not to do, and try to do the process against the government and say this is an overreach. So it's kind of reminiscent of things that we see already, don't you think?
I think that there are a lot of things that I've come to question about what happened at the Freedom Convoy, and as I've said, there are many different people there for many different reasons, or maybe different groups of people there for various reasons. And I think James Bauder was there for his own political purposes, his memorandum of understanding, his involvement with this Canada Unity group that he set up, I think, well in advance of the Freedom Convoy, and his United We Roll involvement to the convoy prior to that, which was all about big oil and Western Canada, and I think even separatism, which Bridget, I was going to kind of save this comment until the end of this, but his organization was called Canada Unity, right? And I've been asking for a long time, is a bunch of these people within different factions of the freedom movement kept using this word unity, and I keep saying, okay, well, unity for what? Like, what are we uniting around, or what are we supposed to be united in as part of, or what is this unity thing? And in my interview with James Bauder, he basically admitted that he's like pro 51st state. He wants Canada to become, I think, part of the United States. And so unity in that regard, if this has always really been his goal, then is it unity with the United States? Has that always been the goal? Maybe some people are trying to
I
tell
don't
us.
know.
I don't know. It's weird.
I don't know what his goal was, honestly. I mean, he snowed me pretty good. It was that conversation on the 12th of January where he's like, yeah, I've done this before. I have the police in my back pocket. I'm wondering if he's still saying that. He has the police in his back pocket, but he has no freedom. That he's done it 100, like more often than not. And don't worry, he's got the setup in Ottawa all down pat. He's got people there. He's got resources. He's got everything. At the end of the day, when you look at what James Bauder achieved, he failed on everything he promised us. He didn't have the parking he promised us. He didn't have OPS in his back pocket like he stated. He didn't provide the tools for us as simple as porta potties. My son and I were on the phone after I came back one night from downtown trying to get porta potties because my son was in the construction industry, right? So we're calling all his buddies going, hey, you got a porta potty you can give us, right? We're on the phone. We're sending text messages up until 2 a.m.
Yeah.
But hey, James had everything under control. You know what James had under control? He went and did his little podcast there with 60 Minutes or whatever it was, Fifth Estate, right?
Right, yeah.
Not one of us knew that he was doing that until we caught him on a live. It was like, are you kidding me? How dare you bring us all here and then go speak on our behalf as the truckers of the convoy, and then you don't tell anybody? Like, I mean, if anything, I could have gone to court for James and say, yeah, everything he planned failed, so I really don't know why he's here, because it was more Leach and her lawyers that did the bulk of the stuff.
Yeah.
And did the bulk of the instigating. I could have done that. But when he said he was going to call me into court because he was representing himself, I said, well, good luck on that. Chris and Tamara set a precedent for $83,000 a day. So that's my price too. I mean, I'm not going to play the games with Bauder. He plays these games. He gets himself into deeper trouble. And then he's going to sit there and whine that he's doing 15 years because he did not show up to court. That is a slap in the face to the court, and the courts aren't going to take that kindly. And now he has Leach's lawyer. How did that happen? A guy that had to defend himself, a guy that had fired pretty much every lawyer he had.
Yeah.
I mean, how does that happen? Because they've given him money, or he's agreed to say something or not say something. He's agreed to something in order to get that lawyer. There's no way.
Greenspan, that's top shelf. That's expensive legal representation.
Exactly. Yeah. Right? So who's paying for that? Ezra? Is Ezra paying for that?
They've got a fundraiser
Who's paying
going
for that?
Yep. Among others.
Ezra does?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, if anything, I tell people, keep your money in your pocket, because all you're doing is being taken one more time by another convoy organizer.
Yeah.
You have to look at it. Chad has been fighting his legal battles on his own. He hasn't asked for donations, and I commend him for that. Right?
That's Chad Arrows?
Chris Guerra. Chad Arrows, yeah. He hasn't asked anybody for a fundraiser. He's done it all himself. Even after Tamara Leach and her lawyers took his job as a CPA for over a year. He didn't ask anybody for a handout. Not one. Then you got Chris Guerra, who had donations going for truckers. And guess who got them? Truckers. Right?
Mm-hmm.
They didn't go into a private account. They didn't get moved to a private account. The truckers got the money. Then you got BJ. He's never asked anybody for a dime. He wrote a book. He does podcasts. He does his stuff. He's been doing for a very long time. He didn't ask anybody for money. Right?
Yeah.
You got St. Nicholas, Caribou. Caribou hasn't asked anybody for money. Right? And he's on the $460 million lawsuit with me. I haven't asked for any money. I was representing myself until Jim came along. So, I mean, yeah, look at the people who aren't asking you for money.
Yeah.
Good point.
Truth. It always comes to the surface eventually, and we're still in the process of getting there. I think, I think truth comes forward anyway. I thank you for calling in tonight, Bridget, and helping us shed some light on this. I'll throw it over to you, Dragon, for a final thought, and then we'll get a very final thought from Bridget as we kind of wrap up tonight's broadcast.
Well, my final thought will be just stay positive, guys, because, well, maybe that the world is going to a crazy state, but by staying with us, you just staying sane. So, yeah, just keep it real.
Okay. And I will reach out to James Bauder and see if he wants to appear on the program again. Bridget, final thought?
Final thought is, James Bauder, come home and face the consequences of the things you did, the people that you played games with, and Canadian sovereignty, which you like to talk about, and the democracy of our country. You played with that, and now you're going to pay the price. So come back, face it like a man. Stop running.
Yeah.
Because it's not going to end up well. You need to come home, and you need to face this before you put your wife in jeopardy. Other people, I am sure the government is, especially now with all our friction with the U.S., I don't think they're going to take it lightly if they hide James. I don't think so. And I don't think it's going to work in his best interest either. Because as the Americans find out, they are harboring a Canadian fugitive. How different is that from harboring a Mexican cartel or an Indian gang member or anyone else? It doesn't matter what the charges are. The fact is, he is charged. He is going to court, and they can do it with or without him.
Yeah. And it's, some people will view it as, he's being persecuted because it's the Freedom Convoy. But the reality is it's contempt of court. He's in contempt. He didn't show up for his court trial, and that's the crime now. And so he's just making it worse for himself when he should.
And it all started over one small little detail. All he had to do was tell OPS his new address, right?
Mm-hmm.
He failed to do that. It's the same deal as Leach when she got arrested over the award ceremony and the pictures that hit the line and the video, that Tom Razzo did and Stacy Crowder put out. Those images were done by those people. Tamara knew about it, and Tamara knew she wasn't supposed to be with Tom. She knew. So if you can't read the conditions that are on the form, if you're questioning the conditions on your form, the smartest thing is don't do it. Don't play with the conditions if you want to stay out of jail.
Yeah, pretty straightforward stuff. All right.
It's common sense.
Yeah, deal with it like a man and stop making things worse for yourself and others.
Yeah, because I'm worried about his wife. Is he putting her in harm's way?
Indeed. Bridget Belton, mother of the Convoy, thank you for calling in tonight and joining us on the program. With that,
thanks for answering the call.
All right, we're going to wrap up tonight. See you guys back here tomorrow night, 7 p.m. Eastern, on the flip side.
Didn't pick this fight, but here it came. Now I wanna play in a traitor's game. They sell us out for a tax cut deal. Shake his hand while they rob and steal. They call and sold. Trade our land for American gold. Singing his tune, dancing his way, but they'll cry for Canada when it's too late. Yeah. Trump traitors selling us out, burning our home for a tax break now. They stand with the wolves, spit on the brave, but they'll beg for Canada when it's in its grave. They talk real tough, but they bow real low, licking his boots while they put on a show. They chant his name, raise their fists up high, while the real ones fight to keep us alive. They don't fight fair, they twist the truth, say they're the future, but they kill the roots. They laugh now, but watch them run when the north wind howls and justice comes. Traitors selling us out, burning our home for a tax break now. They stand with the wolves, spit on the brave, but they'll beg for Canada when it's in its grave. One day soon the tide will turn, and traitors pay when the fires burn. No statues raised, no banners flown, just names in dust where the traitors roam. Traitors selling us out, burning our home for a tax break now. They stand with the wolves, spit on the brave, but they'll beg for Canada when it's in its grave. Trump traitors! Trump traitors! Trump traitors! Trump traitors! Trump traitors! Shame.
This has been a Maverick Multimedia production.